Hey everybody, how you doing tonight? Welcome once again to another exciting Incredichat. Great stuff happening tonight, and great stuff happening in the next couple of weeks here on Incredichat as well as we get towards the holidays. But more about that later. So tonight we're going to talk about toys. And when we talk about toys, we're going to talk about classic toys with one of our good buddies. We'll waste no time in bringing him back on here tonight. Please welcome the creator of Boglins, Sectaurs, and we'll throw it out there. He worked on Dark Crystal and Fraggle Rock, some classics. Welcome to Incredichat once again, our buddy Tim Clarke. Hey, there he is.
Guys. Hey,
Welcome
nice
back.
to see you.
Always. So, Tim, you're back with us, and you've got exciting things going on now.
Yeah, we started the Kickstarter. Well, it was supposed to start the day before Halloween, but what happened was some of the press notices were sent out with and we had told people not to announce till the 30th. And one of the toy journals jumped the gun. And then Chris Cafoni, who's working with me on the re-release of Boglins, said, well now we got to open it because, it's... I don't want people going to the Kickstarter and not being able to find it.
Gotcha.
So on, I believe that the 28th, the evening of the 28th, it was launched, but it wasn't, anything nothing had happened really. The next morning there was I think $171 in sales.
That's crazy.
And then by the day of the 30th, it had already hit its sell-in of $25,000 in one day.
Jeez.
And Chris called me up and he goes, Tim, it's already funded. And I said, I know. I looked at it this morning. I couldn't believe it. And then the next day after that, it was at 50,000. It had doubled in just less than 3 days, in 2.5 days. And we were flabbergasted. We were just we knew we were pretty confident that we would get at least the 25,000 because, I have collected a good fan base over the last 4 years.
Well, and I mean, but
going to shows and
when you do the cons, you bring them. You have the mini Boglins, and you have ones that you're producing your own stuff that you can bring to the cons. Yes. Those do very well.
Yeah. So, but then it just kept going and going. And then we put up the little video shorts we have on YouTube, and it just kept growing and growing. And, Chris was just flipping out. He was like, I can't believe this. And because he really didn't, he comes from the more traditional toy business.
Yeah.
And he said, he didn't even know what Kickstarter was when we started. I had suggested to help us fund it. And he was like, this is unbelievable. I can't believe this is going crazy like this. So now we funded the first 3 because the mold cost, because of the eye mechanism and the plastic bars on the front of the box and all the parts, because the body is one part, the arms, and then the jointing for the arms and the tail. The mold cost alone just for one Boglin is $25,000.
Wow.
So we were hoping, well, if we can just fund the first 3, that'll be fantastic. Well, then within, I don't know, maybe 5 days, we funded all 3. So then we started offering the next 4 because it was always our plan to try and do 7 things by next year, by the end of next year. So we're already funded now for, we're almost funded for the next 2 are funded, and we have 2 more to go. And we've almost got the 5th one.
Okay.
Or the 6th one funded. And we're going to let it, leave it up to the fans to choose which king will be the next. I'll Instagram and all the other Boglin sites on Facebook and, letting the fans know that it's going to be up to them to choose whether it's going to be King Spunk or
Gotcha.
King Swag. And King Swag is the king of the soggy boglins.
Gotcha.
So,
Well, now let me just ask you, and I'm going to go out on a limb here. Do you have any boglins with you right now?
no, I escaped to my bedroom so that it would be quiet.
Well,
because we have a cat that makes, she's deaf.
okay.
And she howls all the time. So I kind of ran up here thinking, well, this would be a safe spot.
No worries. Because what I wanted to ask, so we were talking about these molds for the boglins, right?
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about, I guess, about the molds. So you said $25,000 for one.
Yes, because they have to be injection molded.
Okay.
And that means cutting, steel molds.
Wow.
So that they can end up, withstand the pressure of injection molding and the heat, because it's a thermoplastic.
Wow.
And then the eye mechanism alone is quite a lot of parts. So, and that has to be injection molded, and everything has to match up and fit properly. And so you need that consistency and control. So, but so far everything is going really well. We, since we funded back, the end of October. I mean, gosh, it's only 12 days ago.
No,
but,
you see it a lot, but I mean, to be one of those people must be pretty incredible. Just the fact that within days, you were like beyond what your, I guess, expectations almost were, right?
Yes, very much so. It was really surprising and wonderful. It's like it's been a great deal of fun.
Yeah, and that was the thing, is just the fact is like you're one of those internet Kickstarter success stories now, which is
right, yes.
So like you said, Chris, he really didn't know much about Kickstarter. So again, you've been doing you created the boglins, you've been bringing them to cons with you over the last few years. This particular project with the Kickstarter and bringing them back in like this mass production kind of way, really, walk us through, how did that start exactly? How did you and Chris get together to do this?
Well, Chris and I worked together at Melissa and Doug Toys. He was in sales and I was in design and development. Mm-hmm. And after he left Melissa and Doug, I saw him at Toy Fair, I think maybe 2 years ago, and he was working at a new toy company, and he said, and I had the little prototype pieces I've been doing myself, mm-hmm. and I pulled them out of my bag, and he said, "Oh, Tim, I really want to do this. Because he had boglins when he was a kid."
Gotcha.
And he said, "I want to talk to I want you to show this to the owners, what you've been up to and what you're doing." So we showed it to them, this company, and they looked at it for like maybe 9 months, and then they decided that they didn't want to go forward with it. And then Chris was there, and he left that company, and then he got back in touch with me, and he said, "Tim, I'm really thinking about starting up my own toy company, and I want to do boglins." And I said, "Okay, great." It's like, and so finally, this summer, we started trying to figure out how we would approach it and what we would do. Mm-hmm. And, it was just, everything just started falling into place. And Mark Friedman at Surge met with me at 5 Points Festival down in Brooklyn.
Okay.
And he said, I really am interested in pursuing this. So we've got this great team together now to do, lots of great things with bringing back boglins and licensing it out to all different avenues, and finally getting, the toys back on the shelf.
Gotcha. Now let me ask you. So Mattel originally produced the boglins, correct?
Yes, from 86 and through 87, I think. Yeah.
Okay.
And then it went to Europe, and it was produced by Ideal Sectaurs over there, which was a joint English-French toy company. And it went on for 7 years in Europe. So the biggest following is in the UK and Europe.
Wow.
And mini Boglins came out, and there were over 100 mini Boglin characters created. So there's much more product over there than there is here. And we hope to, within the next 2 years, start to get mini Boglins out in the States.
Gotcha.
We'll see how things go.
Gotcha. So now I just wanted to ask, so you own you're the creator, you own the rights to the Boglin. Was there
Incredichat and myself were the ones who created Boglins, and Seven Towns originally licensed them, and Seven Towns is still involved as an agent.
Oh, great. Yeah, because that's what I was going to ask. Like in this whole world of toys and creative properties, how were you able to keep control of your characters from like the big companies like a Mattel?
Luck. Because back in the 80s, it was possible for designers and inventors to get the rights of their products back from the toy company once the toy company stopped producing it. Mm-hmm. Nowadays, that's I don't think even possible anymore, because once a toy company takes it on, they usually want to control the license, forever and eternity. But,
gotcha. Well,
yeah, luckily Seven Towns worked out a good contract with Mattel so that we were able to maintain the rights.
No, I mean that's phenomenal, and I mean certainly maybe Mattel at this point now. Have you heard from anybody at Mattel, like kind of being like, oh, I wish we kept this going?
Look, we approached, Maureen and I have both approached Mattel several times over the years, and they just said there wasn't any interest at this time.
Wow.
And, who knows,
Yeah, I mean, but at this point now, do you really even need Mattel, right?
No, we don't. We're hoping that with the Kickstarter campaign, now we'll be getting more interest from the regular trade, but we have not had any, we've had a lot of inquiries, but, until somebody signs, sends us a check, and makes an order. Right now, all just going to be fan-based and Kickstarter.
Yeah, I mean, you can always go on a Shark Tank, right?
No, I'm not going on Shark Tank. Okay.
I can't see any of those guys with the Boglin on their hand. But no, I mean, I think that this is, I mean, again, like I said, a success story. This is your baby, and you're rocking and rolling with it now. So now going back to the creation of the Boglins, this steel mold that you said, $25,000. Walk us through the birth of a Boglin. So you have this steel mold. What do you do your original sculpture in? How is that mold created? And then is it piece by piece? What do you do to make these Boglins?
Well, originally, I sculpted the Boglin out of clay, oil-based clay, and then I made plaster molds and cast them, the very first ones, in foam latex. Then nowadays, what we did with the new ones is we scanned in the originals.
Oh wow!
Then we and I added the 3 horns, because now they're all the 3 original Boglins, Dwarf, Flob, and Drool, are kings of their own separate kingdoms. Mm-hmm. And that's indicated by their 3 horns. Now, this was originally done. The idea of the kings was brought out with the mini Boglins.
Okay.
So there are a lot of different tribes of Boglins in the mini Boglin clans, and it was always intimated that a king existed, but nobody knew or ever saw the king in mini Boglins. It was sculpted, and Maureen had sculpted the king, and I found the mold, so I started making the mini style. But we thought it would be fun to bring the original large Boglins with the moving eyes,
Yeah.
Back as kings. So that's how they'll be different from the original ones.
Okay.
And we're planning, also within that is we're going to be doing the Halloween Boglins. They will have Bogbones, and Blobkin will have two horns. And we have another, what we're calling the Dark Lords. They'll be coming out next year in the fall, I believe, depending on how the production schedule goes. So,
Gotcha.
yeah, there's lots of new stuff within the first year even, and some limited edition series of that's on the Kickstarter for the Golden Horned Boglins, which most likely will have a different eye color and a different spray mask applied to differentiate them from the other things.
Gotcha. Now, the material that now using the same materials that you used for the original Boglins, or have they differed?
No, Craton really isn't cost effective anymore.
Okay.
Nor where what's great for the time now, we're going to be using TPR, which is a lot more environmentally friendly, and it is far superior in that it has greater elongation, and it can be plasticized to whatever degree you want, and so it'll have nice stretch and flexibility, and we're going to try and get it to be exactly the same as the original feel.
Okay.
The only difference I think will be that it'll be a lot more elastic. It won't tear.
Because that's what I was going to ask. Because I mean, as we're sitting here chatting, I even just pulled up on eBay for just out of curiosity. I just pulled up Boglins, and I mean, you're seeing Boglins up there, and we're talking in the $100 range for these original Boglins. And I remember as a kid playing with Boglins, and my friends having them as well. Like you said, the tear. Just that material, that latex, I guess, or whatever that latex kind of stuff. For a kid playing roughly, I mean, obviously, this Kickstarter is really more geared toward the adult collector, as they like to say nowadays. But play value wise, there are probably a lot of Boglins throughout history that did not make it just because kids had so much fun playing with them.
Well, I think part of it was also that Stretch Armstrong was out at that time, and the whole idea about Stretch Armstrong was that you could take it and pull it as far as you possibly could, and stretch it all the way out. And I think some kids thought, Boglins are similar to that, and then to their regret, they found out, no, if you pull his arms from both sides, eventually it's going to split. So,
exactly.
It put up with a lot of abuse, but not to that degree.
Well, I mean, also, I think at that point in time, as working in toys, and all of us older folk who still have toys, I want to say maybe kids were not as careful with their toys back in like the 60s, 70s, and 80s. And
nor should they be.
No, of course.
The idea of having a toy as a child is that, it extends your imagination, and that's important. And I actually, Chris said, the great thing about Boglins is it doesn't have, a big storyline. It didn't have a movie or TV series. So it's totally up to the kids to create who the characters and how they behave. And that's why we're going to be doing, fan-based. We're going to be adding fan-based videos to our YouTube channel.
Yeah.
So that, that it's the Boglins that are going to be helping kids create content rather than them watching content. That's what we're trying to achieve by changing the approach to Boglins. It's not about watching something on the TV and mimicking what you see. It's about kids being able to create their own storylines and make their own little plays and productions. And so we're really looking forward to when the Boglins are back out there and people start making their own stuff and submitting it.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, and certainly in this day and age of social media, TikTok, all that stuff, what a perfect place for the Boglins to invade, right?
Yes, yeah, and we part of the campaign was having fun with me and doing the first few videos on YouTube and posting them of the Boglins tormenting me, and hopefully, if all goes well, we'll have the Thanksgiving Boglin special out sometime towards the end of next week or beginning of the week after. So, nice. And so far, I think of the three that I've done, this one is definitely going to be the funniest. It's full of mayhem.
Well, you're becoming the star of these now too, which is great.
Yeah. Yes.
This is so much fun. We have a couple of comments here, one on this chat and one on the viewing party on my other device here. Our good buddy Anthony Just from Alternaverse over in Hyde Park. He says toys are to be played with. Boglins are awesome for that.
Thanks.
Nice. And then over on the other live stream that I have going on with this, the viewing party, we have a question just about the creation of the Boglins. So when you created the Boglins, really, where did you draw your inspiration from for them? I mean, this came after Muppets, right? After Sesame and Fraggle. Dark Crystal and Fraggle, I should say.
Yeah, after working on Dark Crystal and the materials that we were using, the foam latex that we were using for making the characters for Dark Crystal, then I went to work on Fraggle Rock, and after the first season of Fraggle Rock was finished, I had approached Jim about doing a toy design and development, shop at Muppets. And he said to me, Tim, it's a wonderful idea. I just don't want to do it. And I always say that was like the best kick in the pants I ever had. So soon after that, they put a lot of the puppet staff on freelance. And I started doing designing and producing toys myself. And the first one that was successful was Sectaurs, which was based on a hand puppet fly that you put your fingers into the legs. And then later on, Maureen and I started doing development work on Boglins, the idea of having a hand puppet monster and incorporating an eye mechanism so that they would be really lifelike. And it was originally sold to Clarke to be part of the Sectaurs line as a nemesis for the Sectaurs.
Oh, wow.
But Clarke, unfortunately, within the time period of presenting it and Sectaurs coming out, went bankrupt. So Larry Mass, who was working for 7 Pounds at that time, got Boglins back and pitched it to Mattel, and they immediately, bought into it. They said, "Oh my gosh, this has been staring us in the face for years, and it's perfect." So that's how Mattel launched it.
Now, I just want to go back. So I do want to ask you a question about Sectaurs, but I just want to go back to what you said about Jim. So you were interested in heading up like a toy, and so I assume
no, just because usually what it was the toy companies would come to Henson and say, we want to do a Big Bird ride-on, or we want to do, Ernie and Bert dolls, or whatever it was, and I was saying to Jim, like we've explored all these great, techniques and new materials that are being approached for hand puppets, and the toy companies aren't doing anything like this. And while I was just after I had finished doing the first season of Fraggle Rock, they asked Hasbro had gotten the license to do the Dark Crystal toys, which were never released. But that was my first toy sculpting job. Was I sculpted the Mystics for it, the Gartham and the Landstrider. And unfortunately, they were never released, but that was what kind of also spurred me on to developing, and working with toy companies to create new products.
Yeah. So let me just ask too, with that, with the Boglins, once Jim, I assume you shared those with him once they were created. Even the Sectaurs.
No, I wasn't at Muppets at the time, and I was super busy, trying to keep up with the demands of designing stuff for the toy companies. I don't actually think I saw Jim again after that, because Jim then went on to doing Labyrinth in the UK, and he wasn't even around in New York, and I was back in New York. So
gotcha. The Boglins, the Sectaurs, like you were saying, that the Fly puppet, essentially, like you look at like old Muppet Show stuff, and like his old, like that really I think of the Harry Belafonte episode of the Muppet Show where he has the tarantula. All that is a glove puppet.
Yeah,
literally. So
it's funny because like when I was in the UK working on Dark Crystal and Muppet Show and Great Muppet Caper, I didn't get to see a lot of TV because I was working so many hours. So, it's like Muppet Show was going on and I wasn't even seeing the episodes. A lot of them I haven't even seen till more recently.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it's like it gets a very fractured life. Like Marty Robinson, who worked on Sesame Street for many, many years while I was working at Muppets.
Mm-hmm.
We never crossed paths until we went to Dragon Con together, and I met him in the airport.
Jeez.
So you never know.
Well,
I know Jim knew about my connection to both Sectaurs and Boglins. Because people who were working at Muppets afterwards said, "Oh yeah, Tim Clarke." They showed it to him, and they said, "Oh, Tim Clarke did this," and he's like, "Oh yeah, that makes that makes sense."
Nice. No, it's really cool. And the fact that you were inspired a lot by the work. And like Jim, obviously, Muppets. They inspired everybody there.
Between Jim and Brian Froud and everybody else. It's like Franz Fozzikas, who worked at most of the mechanisms for the puppets.
Mm-hmm.
The radio controlled puppets. Was a major influence on the way I approach designing mechanisms for puppets.
Gotcha. So now let me ask, as we're going through this new process for Boglins, you said you're really focusing on what the fans, what the fans do with the characters, the stories they create, and you shared that you have the three kingdoms. You've done some thought about it. Have you thought about doing some of your own? Outside of the little videos that you're doing now with you in there.
Oh yeah. We have to wait and see where things go. But yes, it would be wonderful to do some, television or something on Netflix, or that would be fantastic. So
yeah,
and you never know.
And even I know we were talking before we went on about the Sectaurs too. Even like a Boglins comic book,
Yes. Yeah. No, I have plans to do a field guide for Boglins, so that there's a record of all the different characters and who they are and how they relate to each other in the storyline. So, excuse me. So there's a lot of things that are to come up.
Gotcha. Now I have another question here from the watch party that I have here on Facebook. Yeah. You said earlier that the Boglins were supposed to be nemesises to the Sectaurs. They want to know, how would they have fit into the Sectaurs world, and is there any possibilities that as Sectaurs continue, they could reemerge and have a kind of crossover?
I don't think so. One, I have to say, when Coleco took on Boglins, they went in a totally different direction of what Maureen and I had designed, and I really did not like it. I was really glad when they decided not to go forward with it, because it was so far away from what we had presented. I mean, there wasn't even really a relationship to what we had shown them.
Mm-hmm.
And when Mattel took it on, Dwark, who is the green Boglin with the antenna on the top of his head, he looked almost exactly like the Boglin that I had made and we had presented to Mattel. It's very, very close. So I was much happier with the fact that Mattel took it over and kind of stuck to what the concept was from the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And so, it all worked out for the best.
Yeah, because I mean, certainly just thinking about that question too, like you look at the design, I guess maybe you could speak to a little bit, like how did Coleco redesign them or reimagine them? Because
one of them looked more like a alligator.
Okay.
And another one that they showed us early on had a body that was connected by a dryer hose, and you put your hand in the back of his head, and then you could make this neck spring up and down off the body. And I was like, I looked at it and I was going, oh, this is awful. This is just awful. It's like there was nothing good about it. So yeah, it was very disappointing. And it's like basically we had presented to them a very clear and concise idea, and that it didn't need to be messed with, and they just like, oh, it was where they went with it was terrible. So it was a relief when they decided not to go forward with it.
Well, I mean, and again, that just shows you what corporations, when they take an idea, what they sometimes can do with that. So,
yes, I mean, Sectaurs was derived, was derivative of what we presented. Originally the Sectaurs were much more naturalistic and much closer to looking like insects. They kind of streamlined it a little bit, but the soul of it was there.
Gotcha.
And Boglins, as it was produced by Mattel, was very, very close to what we presented, so.
Yeah, and certainly at that time period too, I think maybe the longevity of Boglins is the fact that was something a little bit different than what was out at that time, because around the time that Sectaurs came out, like that was really like the He-Man, Black Star, kind of these muscular, not so much like you had right now, and we've always been in this world of like the comic superheroes, but at that point in the 80s was really like that fantasy kind of superhero warrior kind of thing, and the Sectaurs definitely fit into that kind of storyline.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very true.
So so let's talk a little bit about the Sectaurs now too, just because I know they did come back for a little bit. They were put out by Zika Toys at the 3 3/4 scale. What else is going on with the Sectaurs right now?
Well, Maureen has been working on a new comic book series that takes Sectaurs into the future, and we're looking to bring it back as a toy product as well as a comic book series, and who knows what else. And we're hoping within this next year that things will start coming about with that. We've had some interest from the toy company, so I don't know. It's always the big crapshoot, but you never know.
Yeah. So now let me ask this question here, because I know there's some people who are interested that are watching this too. How does one become a toy creator, a toy maker, if you will? How do you get into that business?
I
Like,
don't.
that's a great idea for toys. How do we make this happen?
Nowadays, FIT has a toy design program.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a couple of other universities that have toy design and development programs. So that's, I would say that that's probably the best way to enter the business. But as an independent designer, it's impossible these days. I mean, as I got older, it got harder and harder because you were competing against, Warner Brothers and Star Wars and Disney and everybody else who were, putting out big media events that had toys as tie-ins.
Mm-hmm.
Back with Sectaurs and Boglins, it was more driven by the toy company itself.
Yeah.
And so that's why I went on to working for toy companies, because as an independent inventor and designer, it's nearly impossible to sell product to a major toy company.
Yeah, and I could definitely see what you're saying now too. And I'm just, again, thinking back to my own childhood, and I mean, of course, these were all things before I grew up in the late 70s, early 80s, anyways. But
yeah.
Things like Transformers, like those came from overseas. G.I. Joe was around since the 60s, so they were the lines that, I mean, these classic lines now, if you will, that are popular and consistently reimagined. They've all had like a shelf life before.
Yes.
I probably around that time in the early 80s, like when Sectaurs came out, and same thing with like Masters of the Universe and things like that. Those were really those in-house creations at that point in time, as opposed to somebody, let's try to have this.
Well, I believe Thundercats was designed by somebody from outside the business.
Gotcha.
And developed, but toy companies were more capable of driving a new toy concept then, rather than it being the other way around, where they were buying a license to Ghostbusters or Star Wars or any other the big movie or television productions. So yeah, I'm not saying it's impossible. I mean, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles was launched from a comic that nobody knew, like a very small group of people even knew about. It just shows you what an immense and interesting departure it was from the basic idea of the superhero action figure toy line. I remember seeing Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles at Toy Fair when it was launched, and I said, "Oh my God, this is the best thing I've seen at Toy Fair in years." Just because it was so off the wall and wacky, and it was a nice kind of sarcastic twist to the norm. It really stood out.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. And I've been to Toy Fair a couple of times, and I guess back when that was out, there was still that creativity, so Playmates at that time, that was their big push, and nobody else knew about Ninja Turtles. Playmates, that was their thing, Yeah. But now you walk around Toy Fair, and again, not knocking it, because I mean, the business is run by money and sales, but you walk around Toy Fair, and every company, depending on what their strength is, you'll have different variations on Star Wars merchandise from different toy companies, because Star Wars is one of those brands, like you were saying, that's a guaranteed. Even if it's not a guaranteed sale, somebody's still going to buy that Star Wars knickknack because it says Star Wars, And I guess even for the smaller companies who are making just a little Baby Yoda Jack in the Box, something silly like that. They know that someone, even though they may not sell billions of them, someone's going to buy that. They'll make their money, and it's easier for them to take that risk on something like that as opposed to creating, here's our own cute little character kind of thing.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely an interesting business, and I think the one thing in regards to toys, and like you were mentioning this with the Boglins, and certainly even with the Sectaurs too, is it does take away some of that creativity that kids have, because kids, like, are all about the social media now. They're all about video games. I mean, I've certainly, and I think most people my age, till about like 10, 11 years old, a lot of us were still playing with toys,
Yeah.
and I remember being outside, even with like my GI Joes or my Star Wars figures with my friends, you know, setting up these elaborate stories, these scenes, very, going off based off what we saw on television, but also just using our own imagination. Now you walk down the toy aisles, and it is all just like licensed material that I mean, even Lego for the longest time was their own thing, but even they kind of became commercialized by taking on like the Disney properties and all these other things.
It's true. You can't escape it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's longevity. That's for the company,
Mhm.
for the companies. Here's another question we have about the Boglins. How long do those molds, like how many Boglins can you make from one of those molds?
That's a good question. I know the seal does wear out eventually, and once it starts to deteriorate, then they have to. But the amount of units per steel mold, it depends on the material that's going into the steel, because some plastics are more reactive with metal than others. So right off the top of my head, I couldn't say. I would say probably it's in the hundreds of thousands of units before.
Oh, wow.
But how many exactly, I don't know.
Now, how many molds are you getting for each of these characters at this point for this Kickstarter event? Just one of each?
Yeah, it will be.
Oh, wow.
Well, actually, it'll be one head mold
Okay.
for each character. Then they will be using the same arm mold and the same tail mold for each of the first three.
Okay.
One mold will be dedicated just to making the eye mechanisms. And because it's a different form of plastic, it's more rigid and a different type of plastic. And then all the jointing for the tail and the arms is another mold for those to be created. So it's kind of a mix and match thing, but it works. And if the order numbers go way high, then we probably would be producing additional tail and arm molds to keep up with the demand for the product.
Gotcha.
That's way down the line.
But I mean, the nice thing, and I just want to point out to everybody, and Anthony says he wants to see hand puppets for Sectaurs again. So I guess if Sectaurs come back,
yeah, I would too. I would too. I hope it happens.
But so everybody that's scrolling, and this is a long thing, but if you go to Kickstarter and type in Boglin's World Domination, you'll find the Kickstarter where you can contribute to and order your Boglins.
Yeah, gotta help everybody, help us get to that next king. It'll be great.
I mean, and the one thing, like you said, like these are very unique molds. So when you do purchase one of these Boglins, you really are getting essentially one of a kind piece of artwork, because you pour the mold, right? How long does it take for the plastic, the material, to be ready to open the mold?
Oh, I'm not really sure what the cure rate is on this new rubber, so I can't answer that yet. We're supposed to get the first sample. I've seen the 3D printed sample already. And we're working on the paint spraying for each Boglin. The eye mechanism, I've seen the 3D printed eye mechanism, so it's working well. And we're hoping to get the first pull of the new rubber towards the end of December.
Okay.
And then we hope to ship product to all the people who funded the Kickstarter in April, I believe, would be the first 3 going out, and then the Golden Kings would probably be going out more towards the beginning of summer, and then Vagabonds and Blobkin, the new versions of those, will be out probably the end of the summer going into September for the Halloween market.
And obviously all these, like I'm looking at the Halloween ones now, and just all of them. These are all hand painted too, right?
Yes. So all the once the rubber is poured, and they get spray painted by hand to highlight the texture and the form. And in the case of Vagabonds and Blobkin, they'll be spray painted. They'll be masked.
Yeah.
And they create a mask and then spray paint them black.
Wow. You know, I mean, it's awesome. I mean, again, for anybody who's interested in these, you know, these are really works of art that you're buying. It's not just a toy, because
for people who have a very weird sense of what art is.
Yeah. No, but I mean, at the end of the day, it's certainly
it is indeed an art form. I mean, it is reliant on, you know, the ability to sculpt and create a form. The beautiful thing is that it's a sculpture that can be animated, which
exactly
is in the true sense of, you know, puppetry.
Which goes back to what you were saying before, is when you buy these Boglins, open them up and play with them, have fun with them.
Yeah, and create content to put on YouTube. Where, you know, you can submit it to our YouTube channel once you get them, and you start making your own stuff. Let your kids do it, and I really look forward. I love seeing what kids end up doing with them, because sometimes it's the most inventive of all, you know, as to what, you know, they perceive Boglins to be. That's the part that I really enjoy.
Yeah. No, I mean, listen, again, it's the kid's imagination, like you were saying. Like that's where the joy from all these toys, just toys in general, that's where they come from.
Yeah.
Most definitely. So as we're getting ready to wind down here in a few minutes,
okay.
What's next? Like, so we got the Boglins Kickstarter. What are some other things that you are working on, or is this the main focus right now?
Actually, you know, I'm in over my head lately because I'm still getting orders to my website for Boglins. So I'm trying to get those out, and then I'm overseeing production of the new ones and overseeing development in China, all via, you know, Zoom and other methods of internet, you know, communication. So, and then I've been working on the new package design for them and everything. So right now I'm like crazy busy, and I'm just trying to keep my head above water. But, you know, it's all, and then we've been doing the video shoots, which, you know, we've been posting on YouTube and stuff, which has been a lot of fun. And the guys who were videotaping were here yesterday. We were doing the Boglins Thanksgiving special, and, you know, one of my friends had asked me how things were going. I said, you know, it's great. It's like the best thing. It's the most fun I've had since working at the Muppets, you know, just creating, building stuff, and doing these little video shorts that are all kind of crazy and, you know, off the wall and comedic, and, you know, it's just, and full of antics, you know, and mayhem. You know, it's been really wonderful. I'm and then I've just been really amazed at the support we've been getting on Kickstarter, and very thankful for all those Boglin fans out there who still remember them and love them. You know, it's been wonderful.
Now, speaking of your video, we do have a question here. They want to know where you were kayaking.
I was, you know, it's amazing. We had to very quickly try and find some place to shoot, and then we were waiting for the weather to be good. So I was in Kenosha Lake, which is up in Danbury, and it's literally I mean, it's right here at 84. And that was my one thing. I was worried that, oh my God, we're going to get there. And then all we're going to hear in the background is, you know. But luckily, the sound system and the that they had set up and the microphones were tied in close enough that we didn't hear the traffic at all, because I was afraid you'd hear all these 18-wheelers going by. But it worked out great. And it's like Chris said to me, "Boy, that's a beautiful spot where you were kayaking." And I said, "Well, if you actually saw how close it was to the highway, you would not believe it." So we really lucked out that day. Nice.
I do want to share here as well, totems.com, your website.
Yeah, Totems is the place that I'm selling my handmade boglins. And I don't know how much longer I'm going to be able to keep that up, but I'm trying to.
Now, let me just ask, the handmade boglins on there, you got quite a few of them. How do these ones differ from the one? I mean, outside of your handmade boglins, how do these, production-wise, how are these different than the ones that are coming in the Kickstarter? I mean, definitely different styles.
The one in the Kickstarter, the material is much better.
Okay.
That you're going to have the moving eyes, which I don't have, except for the Cyclops boglin has a moving eye, but
okay.
The eyes that work in tandem, you will only be able to get through the Kickstarter.
Okay.
And believe it or not, the cost of making the box for me in small units would be more than the boglin itself. So when you get into mass production and bigger numbers, then the cost of the box goes down. Plus that it has the injection molded bars on the front, like the original boglin. So all of those components together, to do on a small scale, it's too expensive, but to be able to mass produce them makes it possible. So
gotcha.
The big one of the big differences is now, that they're going to be back in their original form.
Nice. But I mean, certainly, if you want something exclusive, I mean, and like you said, you don't know how much more you're doing this.
And I'm doing like one of a kind. I don't know how much longer I'm going to be able to keep that up, because I'm just getting crazy busy. I got very busy for Halloween orders, and then now that we're into Christmas season, I have a ton of orders I have to get out, which has not been easy because of COVID. So I've been working by myself. It's been crazy.
Yeah, but I mean, there is. I'm just going through this. There is I like this toilet bowl boglin. He's entertaining there, but there's a selection of boglins.
Yes, yeah. There's the headhunters and the shrunken head boglin. And,
yeah. I like the werewolf one too. He looks really cool. And the big
yeah, he's been very, very popular. And I'm hoping I can carry that off into the new series of the larger ones and doing one of the boglins as a werewolf. We'll see. Depends.
Yeah, it has a nice different look to it.
With materials and how the material works. So,
wow. Going back to your video shoot, Anthony says the place where you're kayaking seems so serene, with the exception of the threat of the boglins.
Yes.
How many people did you have working, or you had? How many people were in your crew filming, puppeteering yourself?
Well, my son was there puppeteering. And then one of the guys who was on the video crew did one of the other puppets. Then I'm trying to remember, in some of the shots, I may have done some close-up work with one of the puppets. And then we had a sound guy and the director who was doing the video, and another guy who was head of production. So, it was a small crew, but we did it worked very effectively.
No, that's great.
It was great fun.
No, and again, like you said, great fun filming it, and for us watching it, it's great fun watching it as well. I look forward to seeing the Thanksgiving party that you have with them.
Yeah.
I can only imagine what the boglins might be up to. So yeah, the Kickstarter ends when just so we can let people know.
December 27th.
Oh wow! So there's still a lot of time. Yeah. December 27th. There's a
that will be the last chance to be on the first shipment run of Boglins. After that, I don't know what, at this point, like I said, we've had, since the Kickstarter launched and funded, we've had interest from some retailers, but nothing is confirmed yet. And so after many, many, many years of being in the toy industry, I believe things when the check comes in, to pre-order the products, because retailers change their mind very, very quickly, as what they think is going to sell and what's not. So but at least if you get in on the Kickstarter, you're getting a Boglin. You're going to get those Boglins in the spring to start, and then throughout the rest of the year.
And listen, you have some great deals here too. Just as we're going through it, like you could get the whole set of them, the Kings package, and they're signed, and you get the shirt. So there's all different kinds of packages. So you could get a little bit of everything, and so not a bad deal if you're a Boglin fan.
Exactly. There's a little bit of everything for anybody and everybody.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely some good deals there, and get a Boglin. I mean, it's not bad, and these are, again, the handmade toys. That's what I want to say. Handmade pieces of art by you, Tim. So
thank you.
So cool.
And hopefully, we'll be back at Incredicon shows in this world calms down.
Hopefully in 2021 we will be back.
Yes.
Well, we did an outdoor one a few weeks ago, which was really well. But hopefully we'll be back indoors where it's a little bit easier to prep around weather and whatnot.
Exactly.
But when we do have it, you'll be there with your Boglins, and that will be.
You bet I will. I will.
That's a definite. So again, Tim, thank you so much for joining us here once again.
Thank you, Mike. It was great.
And everybody that tuned in, I know we had some people from the Boglin community, because I shared it out to one of those fan pages as well. And our friend Anthony from Alterniverse, thank you all for tuning in, and people have been popping in and out with the questions. So once again, thank you for joining us on Incredichat. Anthony says we will be doing something. We'll be doing something in 2021 for sure. Absolutely, Anthony. But yeah, Tim, once again, thank you so much. Just want to let everybody know, next week we will be back. We have Tyler Green. He's also from Connecticut. I don't know if you know Tyler, Tim. He did I think the Face Off Challenge on the Sci-Fi Channel. He does special effects and makeup. He'll be with us next week talking about his Monster Kids box. So cool. And
so ask him if he had a Boglin when he was younger.
Well, you know what? And I should have said this, and I'll say it now since we're here. Guys, Boglins make a great holiday gift. Right?
Yeah.
There you go. Because that's why Tyler's coming.
Thanks, Mike.
Yeah. Bye. All right. Good night, everybody. We will see you next time on Incredichat.